Welcome to the MotUS Edge, where we celebrate business, primarily youth sports facility management, leadership, and motivation. Co-hosted by Stacey Rowe, Cole Stott, Kevin Brubaker, and Casey Jones. We are here to fill your cup with knowledge, laughter, affirmations, and comfort knowing that you're not alone. You can and will succeed with the MotUS Edge.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the MotUS Edge, where we talk about leadership, motivation, and all things cheerleading and dance business. I am Stacey Rowe, here today with my favorite co-host, Casey Jones, and our guest is Jeff Benson, the owner of Mind Body Cheer. I am so excited to have him on today. So looking forward.
Me too. Jeff's the man.
Yes.
Thanks, been working with this. Jeff, let's see, when do we connect? Right around COVID, right? That's when I think obviously I knew who you were before then, but we had to do, we did a thing with you and we were trying to do it. I'll never forget this. This was so funny. So Carlos had made the introduction and Jeff was going to help us put together some of our core values and these different things. And we had it lined up and we were in this cabin up in the mountains and the feed would not work. And
technology was against us.
Yes. We spent about 2 hours. So that was a really good, that was a great exercise. And Jeff had to, help us work through when things weren't working and keeping an open mind. So
that's right. I think that's a great topic to kick off with as well, because I think Jeff can attest more than anybody probably, culture is such an important part of, as a coach, you need to build a culture in your team. As a gym owner, you need to build a culture amongst your program. Ideally, those cultures align, and that kind of thing. And I think that, Jeff, you do a great job of really trying to help express and understand. I think a lot of coaches and gym owners miss the point that building your culture never really stops. You don't just have the session in the woods and have Jeff come in and help you build your culture and talk about what it's going to be and then peace out. And now we have culture. That's not how it works, And I think that's so hard for people to get, I know when I talk to gym owners a lot of times, well, I've told them that and I've done this and I put that in one time. That's great. It's not enough, hang it on the wall. It's still not enough. Right. You have to live it, embody it. So I know you have lots of thoughts on that. We can jump right in.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think people forget is that culture is going to happen whether you create it intentionally or not. So if you're somebody who's culture is really not for us, that's voodoo stuff. We're not really, you have a culture.
Wait, has somebody actually said that to you before?
I don't think anybody would say that to me.
Okay.
But I do feel
that people actually feel that way. That's mind blowing.
Well, it's the resistance to what we do here is we coach and we go home and that very methodical 1980s, 1990s, this is our role. It's only this. And we don't want to blur the lines and talk about mindset and emotions because I don't feel comfortable with that. I'm not trained on that is usually how that comes across.
Interesting.
But the reality is you're creating a culture whether you want to or not.
I don't know. As long as I've known you, Jeff, I don't know that I've actually, and maybe I've heard you say those words and I wasn't listening. I don't know, but that is a brilliant point that culture is happening whether you're doing it intentionally or not. That is actually so incredibly smart and accurate.
Thanks.
I don't know. That's something I think about because culture wasn't a big word for me until it was, and then it was a big thing of I don't know that I ever realized that we had such a great culture until I saw that our culture was poor. So, I think for years, and heck, maybe we got lucky. Maybe there are just different things going on. We had built this great culture unbeknownst to us without any planning. It wasn't like we opened the doors and said, hey, let's define our culture.
That's right.
That honestly wasn't even a word that was used much within business or the sport, 25, 26 years ago when we were kind of kicking this thing off. But it became blatantly obvious that we had culture issues when that good culture went away. So, and it's like Jeff said, it's a process, or like you said, Stacey, it's not a one-time fix. It's not one of my favorite sayings, if you walk 3 miles in the woods, it's 3 miles to get out. So there's no other way around it. So it can be challenging.
I agree, Casey. I don't know when the word culture for me specifically came out as well, but I think I was fortunate in that when I went to college, I was studying mathematics, but I had a minor in secondary education. So I had a lot of child psychology and a lot of learning how to manage a classroom. And so I feel like, I don't know that they called it culture, but from the very beginning, it was you need to set the ground rules. You need to, do this, this, and this to manage your classroom, to make sure that things are in line, communicate effectively with your parents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and on down the list. And so I think from a very early age, I kind of knew okay, these are the things that we're going to do and set in place. And that's just how it's going to be, kind of thing. And so inadvertently, like you said, Casey, kind of ended up also building a culture. And it wasn't until I got to see, with Premier, I was very fortunate as well to have access to all of our facilities, and so you learn oh, that's, they're not operating quite exactly like that, or they're doing better at this, or, you start to see different things. And then I think it's a great point, Casey, and very self-observant, which we all need to be as well, is that you didn't realize how great your culture was until it wasn't. And I think that's a great thing to acknowledge too. And I feel like I went through that as well in my own facility. It's I didn't understand I didn't understand that that's what I was doing, was creating this culture, but then it kind of got broken a little bit. And I was like, whoa, we need to reel it back in.
So
one of the
Jeff,
things, sorry.
Yeah, I know you work with a ton of different programs and different things like that all over the country. And I don't think there's a cookie cutter. I assume there's not a cookie cutter approach to culture, and that many gyms have different cultures, which all of them can be good and correct based on the time. So maybe, talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Can I go back to the point?
You can.
Absolutely.
Casey, one of the things that I remember us talking about way back in the day was the original culture of Stingrays was so strong because you were starting it with coaches who had a like-minded attitude about things. Do you remember that conversation? We were at a restaurant.
Yep, absolutely.
I don't remember which restaurant, but so a lot of you coaches, owners are out there. You had an unintentional culture that worked really well because you had like-minded people that you were close to, and you shared similar morals, values, and standards. It happened. That's kind of what often happens with friends. If you want to see the quality of the character of somebody, look at their friends. So you start this gym, but as you grow, because the culture was great and people are drawn to it, then you have to hire outside, and then all of a sudden things shift. And as an owner, I'd imagine wait, what is happening? Why aren't they doing that? I don't understand. Well, it's very clear because you were doing it without intentionally setting and teaching, this is how we do things. So having to right that ship is a very normal, very natural occurrence in all gym culture.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing when that was identified, because you're exactly right, because over the years, tremendous amount of growth. The way we fixed things 25 years ago, all 6 of us went to dinner and worked it out. All 6 of us. Well, now there's way more than 6.
It doesn't work that way anymore.
Right. And something, Jeff, where we failed ourselves and failed people is where we have brought, hey, let's bring this person out from the outside in, and not a person like yourself, but a person who's going to coach or direct or do whatever. Let's bring them out. Let's bring them in to help them fix this culture. Well, they're the least equipped because they don't have any idea of what we were doing 25 years ago and what that was around the table, the talks around the table back in the day. So, you're setting the whole process up for failure plus setting the person up for failure. And those are things that we've identified in trying to get it right.
That's right. So it's setting what are our core values. We talked about that earlier. And to go back to your question, Casey, it's important that as we are creating a culture, there isn't a cookie cutter one way to do it. I have the way that I advise my clients on how to start their culture, but as you just mentioned, my job is not to come in with this is culture. My job is to come in and go, who are you? What's working? What isn't working? And then we discuss together how to move forward. And so I feel the foundation of all of that is knowing what your core values are and your mission or your philosophy as a gym. So think of the X marks the spot on a map. That's the philosophy, who we are. This is what we want. And then the roadmap are your core values. And if you don't have those, and I don't mean in a handbook that you need to, when I ask you, what are your core values? And you open up your book and you're like, those aren't your core values, by the way. If you can't name them right now and define them for me in action, those aren't your core values. So that is something that is similar no matter who I work with, but it will look different no matter who it is.
Right. Because I remember doing that exercise with you, and all of our staff were like, hey, just put out the core values that are important to you, and you got 50 different words. And then we had to whittle those down to 3 or 4. Yeah. And I am certain that doing that exercise in different gyms, you're going to get different values and different things. And once again, nobody's wrong. It's just the things that are important to that group.
Yeah, just know who you are, be who you are.
A thing that I
find the people who agree with that value.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I say all the time.
Yeah, and then if they don't, then they may not be a fit for your organization.
That's right. That's okay.
A tough piece too. So I think Jeff came in, did a lot of work with us, and then I realized, and I don't know that I ever told you this, Jeff, but I was like, man, we weren't prepared for Jeff. As an organization, we weren't ready, because that's the thing, and that is something that I would challenge you. First of all, reach out to Jeff to help, but make sure that you're ready for help. Because if you're in a position of flux or turmoil or trying to figure it out, or there's a power struggle of all that, then that's a really tough time to come in and have Jeff help on that. He may be able to help in different ways. And once again, I've reached out to Jeff for about 1 million different things, everything from help with students. He's helped with parents. He's done parent contracts with us, and he's done some counseling for employees that were just dealing with things. So I highly recommend Jeff. But it's just like when you're seeking help from anyone, you got to be ready for that help, and you got to have an open mind, because if all of this is full, then there's no room for what Jeff's teaching to get in there. So.
Have I ever told you guys about stages of change?
I don't know.
Sounds fascinating.
So
I'm envisioning a caterpillar.
Well,
chrysalis is what came to mind.
Yeah. So stages of change is a concept. It's an addiction model. Prochaska and Di Clemente are famous for it. And basically, if you're thinking in terms of addiction, I don't have a problem. Maybe I have a problem. I have a problem, and I'm going to figure out how to do it. Okay, I'm going to now set my action steps to change the problem, and now I'm maintaining my sobriety, etc. And then in this model, there's relapse, where we go back to the beginning. I feel from this explanation, the same thing works, talking about this point, in a culture. And so what I hear Casey saying is, if you're like at stage 1, which is pre-contemplation, I don't have a problem. If you don't think you have a culture problem, but you reach out to Jeff and you're like, my coaches are lazy, they don't do anything, but it's not a culture problem. I can definitely help you, but you're going to see this much improvement because we're going to be putting Band-Aids on bullet holes. Does that make any sense? Am I being clear?
Totally makes sense to me, because I lived
perfect
it.
Sense.
So.
Yeah.
And then my job is to help move people to stage 2, contemplation. Well, maybe there's a culture problem because my coaches are acting in this way, and maybe there's something I can do to help improve this. So what are you offering, Jeff? So that moving to stage 2 looks a little different in the work that I would do, to stage 3, which is, okay, I know we have a problem. We have a culture problem. This is most typical, the way in which my coaches talk to our athletes is not okay. I realize it's not 1990 and we can't talk to kids based on our emotional dysregulation. I can't scream and yell at kids and get in their face when they're 7 years old and stand above them like this. That's not okay anymore. So what is our plan? So moving from that to the next stage 4, what are the action steps? And then continuing to work with each other or someone like myself to see if what we're doing is working. The plan that we had in store. For example, a coach who is being aggressive with an athlete, are you, as the program director or the owner, sitting down with that coach and giving them a contract of these are the behaviors that are okay, these are the behaviors that are not. That's strike 1, you get 2 more, and then this isn't the place for you. I usually have a visual to help lead this conversation, but can everyone imagine this?
I can imagine it. And I would actually love to be a fly on the wall, because I've dealt with a lot of different gym owners and had a lot of different conversations, not at all on this same topic, but people do get kind of stuck in their way sometimes, in their own way. They get in their own way. They can't see, and you're trying to help them. You're trying to give them information that's going to make them better, but they don't want, like Casey said, they don't want to receive it. So you have to kind of figure out and assess, like on the fly, like, okay, how am I gonna get them to open their mind to what it is that I'm trying to say? And in your, space, I imagine that to be even so much more challenging. And so I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm chuckling in my head, like, man, what a task that must be sometimes. Because I mean, I would assume you probably do enough assessment on the front end that when you arrive, you kind of know what you're in store for, essentially. But at the same time, I would imagine you have walked into situations where you're like, okay, I thought we were ready to be in stage 3, and we are not even like, we are just dipping our toe in stage 1. Mm-hmm. and in that moment, you're like,
it's so hard.
All right, sweet. Let's see what are we going to do right now in this moment?
Yeah. Well, and then the owner can be like, I remember being in that exact, like, okay, we're going to bring Jeff in. He's going to fix this stuff. But, we had all of these different things going on. And it wasn't like we had one thing going on. We had 6 different things going on. So it's like, okay, I've got these 2 people that don't agree. I've got the instructors that are not doing this. I've got these people that are doing great. One challenge we had were some generational differences of, hey, we've got some coaches from 45 to 55 and some from 35 to 45 and some that, just graduated high school. So
we have that constantly.
Dealing with all of those things. So there's a lot going on right there. And then, as an owner or director, it's like you want to snap your fingers and fix these things. Like, yeah, man, Jeff, come on in and just fix this,
Right.
But that doesn't work. It's not, there's a lot of action that has to be taken by a lot of people. And like I said, Jeff does a great job of laying it out and sharing those. But for me, I got frustrated, never got frustrated with Jeff. I got frustrated with kind of ourselves and internally with our program of like, all right, I had to catch my breath a second, and we've got to figure out a thing, and we've got to figure out the right people to be here. And we've got to get prepared to move forward in the things that Jeff is suggesting, because they're vital. Culture is vital.
I think it's, Jeff, I would actually like to ask your opinion on this, because I think that it's perfectly normal and acceptable to have a great culture, to work on your culture, to do all the things right. But then life happens, right? The gym gets busy. You're dealing with a crisis. You're dealing with a personal crisis, whatever the case may be. And because the culture is intact, like, you don't have to necessarily work on it all the time, every minute of the day for a while, right? And you're dealing with all these other things in the meantime. And then you wake up one day and you realize, oh my God, like, I stopped paying attention to this. Maybe because you had to. We could semantics, right? But the reality is, like, you let it go for a minute, and you realize that, fast forward a year and you're looking back and you're like, shoot, my culture is a little out of whack now. I think it's perfectly acceptable to just say, look, guys, like, this is important. I let it slip. I got busy over here. I took my eye off the ball, and we need to fix it. And we need to get back to what's, what we are all about and get refocused on that. And for the leader to admit that and say, I personally feel like I'm experiencing that right now, actually. And I'm getting ready to stand in front of everybody and say, I'm sorry that we have not been doing this like we should have been. It's typically normal practice, and we're going to get back to it. And, and this is the expectation. Like, if you hadn't heard it before, I'm so sorry, but here we are now.
Yeah.
Well, there can be multiple reasons for that. And Jeff, you mentioned it of like, it's ongoing, because the thing for me is when, man, everything's good. Let me relax for a second. And next thing you know, my phrase I like, we're resting on our laurels. We are like,
that's the perfect phrase. All
is well. This is good, and then, but I think there are some simple things and, to put into place. The reality is, if even 2 times a year, maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's more, but whether it's your staff training or, it's another meeting that you have during the year, that can be little tweaks that can help you, not have to get in a position where it's awful again, and then you've got to recreate everything. So just setting a couple things during the season and making sure that you address your culture, making sure that you're communicating those values. That's the thing we'll do right after tryouts with our coaches and with our team reps and with everybody in the building. One of our values right now is communication, and but you've got to share that with everybody and let them know truly what you mean. Yes, we want you to communicate appropriately. Not at 11 o'clock at night, not right after your kid walks out of practice upset and they're emotional and you're emotional. You have to teach them how and when the appropriate communication is, and then getting your coaches and everybody on the same page to make sure that that they're all dealing with it relatively the same.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, Casey. I don't know if I said it or that I was clear enough, but when you set your core values, you have to define them, and it's for exactly that reason. For example, I talk about the triad: parent, athlete, coach. So if your value is communication, all 3 members of the triad must follow that value. But if you haven't defined it, and you just say communication is a core value of ours, and I'm a parent and my child is at home crying, and my child is telling me their coach moved them from a spot and their coach doesn't like them, and the coach is picking on them, and now I'm heated because my baby is upset, and it's now 10:30 and I'm steaming after talking with my spouse about what happened. I'm absolutely going to message the coach at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and it's probably not going to be very nice. It's going to be a very scathing email. In my mind, I'm communicating. But if you have explained that communication is the way in which we express ourselves verbally and non-verbally in a positive way, in hopes of the parties coming together to understand, then when you're talking to that parent in a parent meeting, this is our core value, communication. This is the definition. Do you feel your actions followed that definition? Well, absolutely not. Okay, so now we need to right the ship. There is some amends you need to make, not just to the coach, but to the program in general. And that's strike 1, cannot happen again. What can I do to help support you in communicating in the Ray way, or in the Jeff Benson All-Star way, or the Premier way?
It's a man. You are ringing a bell right here. I had this happen literally 2 days ago, and had a coach like, hey, this parent wants to speak with you right now. And it's about a tryout situation. I said, hey, cool, have them email me and I'll get back with them. And then they replied back, well, the parent's here right now, and they're saying if they were a business owner, this is not how they would handle it, and and they wouldn't tell one of their long-term customers just to email them. And I said, well, there's a lot of things, and I explained it. And then they're literally sitting here right with the parent, which isn't a good thing. And I said, cool, give them my phone number, let them know that this is not going to go well.
I actually started chuckling when you said that, because I'm thinking to myself, I have been in that situation before. And I said, you know what? Let that parent know if they want to come back to my office and have a conversation with me right now, it's not going to go the way that they want it to go. So they can do that if they want, or they can email me, like I said, and we'll have this conversation. It's like, you're not a business owner, or you're not this business owner. So I'm sorry, but this
be
is
careful what you ask for.
Right. Or when they walk out on the floor while you're coaching, I've had that happen before too. And they want to deal with this, right? It's like they've, marked out on the floor and you're in the middle of coaching. And I'm like, hi, all of these kids here and their parents are expecting me to pay attention to them. So I'm going to need you to step back over here. So, but it took me a lot of years, I feel like, to just get the courage to be like, no.
Well, that's the thing. We expect the parents to be emotional, especially during times of trials and things like that. These are their kids, and they've worked all year and they've spent all this time and all this money, and they've got dreams and hopes and aspirations. And I always say on trial day, man, we are making dreams come true and ruining lives all in the same day. Like at the press of an email, we're doing both of those things. And so I expect the parents to be like, I'm not upset when they are emotional. I expect that, but give it 24 hours. We have laid out the proper channels to communicate, and then we're going to communicate with you. When you circumvent that process and then you want to do it on your own terms, then you're probably not going to get our best.
That's right.
And you're not going to get the best results from it. So.
That's such a good point. I talk about red light, green light, yellow light. We all have emotions like a stoplight. Green light emotions, like when we drive, we're feeling good, confident, happy, excited. Red light emotions, rage, anger, fear, overwhelm, panic. But yellow light, like when we drive, are those middle emotions, frustration, confusion. And just like when we're driving, when we have those yellow light emotions, we have to make a choice. Do we keep going before the light turns red? We can maintain the same speed, not floor it, Stacy, maintain the same speed. Or is the light about to turn red and we need to slow down and stop? Because what happens is our nervous system, when we're at red light rage, in this example, we don't make great choices. We don't communicate well. And what happens, mirror neurons, when I'm feeling rage, you all, if you're in the room with me, are going to feel my red light.
Oh, and you're going to feel my rage.
And you're going to respond with the way in which you typically respond to red light. So Stacy might be rage or lion back, but Casey might go to freezing like a turtle. And now the person's yelling at him and he's just shutting down. And so no decision is being made.
Right.
So what you both are explaining is champion-minded culture. You're explaining not, I won't have this conversation with you because I don't care. I'm not having this conversation with you because if you come in at red light and I'm not prepared for your red light, I'm going to match your red light and it doesn't go well. So you work on your emotional regulation. I'm now prepared for an uncomfortable conversation. So when we come in together, we're more likely to make really good choices. And it's easier for me to empathize with your situation rather than being defensive.
Right.
So I think what I've decided is somewhere online, this red light, green light, yellow light, a stoplight exists that I can hang in my office, and I'm going to adjust the light so that everyone in the building knows.
Now, right outside
Stacey,
of your
I have
door.
A poster. I have a poster already made.
I think she wants to change the light, though. She wants a little clicker.
I want a clicker. The light is green. The light is green. Come talk to me. The light is red. Enter. Proceed with caution. It is up to you. Enter at your own risk. The light is red.
This is awesome.
The light is yellow. That's what I want. That's what I want.
Jeff, it took me a long time to realize that some of my own inabilities were causing the problems with parents, because I did not do well when the parent was like, sent me the email that we asked for of like, hey, Casey, do you mind calling me in the next day or two? I've got something I need to discuss with you. And like Casey couldn't go to bed at night because he's trying to figure out what they want to discuss. So it's like, no, we need to talk right now. So I was the opposite. Like you know, I was doing all the things that we were trying to teach the parents not to do. No, let's deal with it right now because I can't deal with the unknown, you know. So I had to realize that was a me problem. That was a Casey problem. And I need to get over that and have my own tools to be able to, like, sure, let's talk in a day or two, you know. The reality is in our business, there's not too many things that we haven't seen before or that aren't going to be okay with some communication. So now I know that, and it's like, yeah, it'll be okay. So
you know what I think most parents, you know, and maybe this isn't accurate for everyone, but in my opinion, like for me personally, I appreciate the parent that is willing to communicate, effectively communicate, calmly communicate, express what they're feeling, express what happened. And if we did something wrong and they want to leave because we did something wrong and they're effectively communicating that, I value and appreciate that. It hurts. It sucks that they're leaving and that I did something that made them angry, that they want to go, or I made a mistake or whatever the case may be, you know, but I appreciate the dialogue and the communication, and it helps me learn and makes me better. And, you know, I genuinely appreciate that. I even more appreciate when the parent's willing to talk it out and we keep the customer and we move on to, you know, go on for years and everybody's fabulous and happy. But either way, like I genuinely do appreciate that. Maybe that's not fair. Maybe that's not accurate for everybody, but I think usually when you're providing, you know, genuine, honest feedback that's helpful, I would like to think that people do appreciate that. It's hard to do that though, I think, all the way around.
Mm-hmm. I think it's, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, another thing that I struggle with is that genuine, honest feedback, because I have so much politician in me, so much people pleaser in me, you know, that I want to spend an hour telling you all of the great things about your kid and making you feel good and doing this without ever really addressing the issue, you know. And it's in my head, it's like, I'm being a nice guy, but the reality is you haven't actually told the person the truth. You know, and that's where, I mean, honestly, that's kind of where I struggle as I've aged, because, like I said, I was that person for a long time. And now I've kind of turned into the brutal truth guy of like, hey, let's just rip the dang Band-Aid off. And like, hey, I'm sorry, your kid sucks.
I think Jeff Casey's been hanging out with me too long, I think is what has happened. I'm kidding.
No, it's just, I think it's, I don't know. I really think it's kind of a generational thing. You know,
I think it's experience and age and all the things. And you realize, I'm sure that over time, you just realize it's better to just be honest. And I've actually witnessed Casey having some of those conversations, and, you know, he admits it on the front end. Like, I don't want to tell you this. Like, it doesn't make me feel good to tell you this, but you need to hear this, you know? And I think that's honest. That's just being honest. And I think it's valued.
The frame. It's the frame, right? Because I believe being honest with somebody while being loving, while you're being honest, is the nicest thing you can do. So are you being nice or are you being kind? And so am I being a people pleaser? Or am I loving you with the truth? If an athlete is doing something wrong, but I don't tell the athlete for fear of them being upset, that's not loving. I'm not helping you grow. I'm actually stunting your growth because of my own inability.
I was just going to say, you're actually just appeasing your own self because you don't want to
be uncomfortable.
And, you know, another one of my favorite terms. And then do you end up enabling this person? You know, and then 20 years later, you've enabled them into this. You know, maybe they're incompetent in their role, but you created that, you know, you helped that, but by always sugarcoating it, never actually being truthful and offering the tools to fix those things because you thought you were being nice, you know. You know, I care so much about you that I'm going to be nice and hurt you. Like, none of us want to do that, but
no,
I've done it, not on purpose, but I've done it.
I mean, we're all parents. Have you not had to give tough feedback to your kids?
Yes, it's still awful.
I know. It's so hard.
And I'll be honest with you, I
don't
always do it as nicely with them, if I'm being honest.
It's fair.
I am, Yeah, it's not a positive thing, but it's a negative thing. Yeah, I'm way harder and way more direct with my own kids than I am with anybody else, and I see it. I see it both ways with employees that have kids or friends that, have kids. Some of them are to the opposite extreme that I am because I'm on one extreme and they're on one extreme. And it seems like the people that are getting it most right are kind of right in the middle, doing a little bit of both of picking their kids up and encouraging them, but also showing them that tough love. And the ones that, to me, that seem to struggle the most, we're either too much tough love or too much,
easy, permissive,
pat them on the back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know Casey's going to jump into his dad joke here in a minute, but Jeff, why don't you tell us a little bit about your books that you have?
Okay. Well, I'm probably best known for this puppy right here, Unblocked. The Walls Come Tumbling Down. This is the second edition. So it is not the exact same book because it's a second edition, but it's an upgrade to the original book that came out a little bit over 11 years ago. But I am currently in the process of writing another book. So it'll be a fictional book following a high school cheer team throughout their season. And the reader is going to get to learn all the little nuggets and bits and pieces of how to build a champion-minded culture. And each chapter is going to be the team learning and applying those different tools. And the hope is the reader, the team, whoever's enjoying the book is going to be able to bring that into their team practices and help elevate their culture in a fun and digestible way.
Very cool. And I also think it's really cool that you updated your book because like we have discussed, things that worked 11 years ago, there may be a better way, for now, because the reality is, kids are raised in a different environment. Kids grow up in a different environment. Parents are living in a different environment. You were talking about that the other day. We've got TVs all over our house and we don't watch any of them, We're all glued to this phone screen. So, but that's the reality. Everything's different. So very cool that you changed that or updated that. So
thanks.
And where can someone find your book if they wanted to purchase it?
They can find it on Amazon. And I believe there's also another place, Stacy. Where is the other place that I can send people to?
Bookshop Fundraising.
There we go.
Is that the place you would be referring to?
Yes.
Yeah, guys, I'm sitting here with two really smart authors right now. And and I'm just here. So I've never written anything.
That's not true. That's not true. You wrote a foreword.
I did with the help of some wonderful editors. So
we love our editors, don't we, Stacy?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The editors are amazing. They do amazing work.
Yes, I was amazed by that. It's like, here's my thoughts. Will you put them together? And man, they did a great job. So
basically, Casey was like, oh, so Stacy's writing really isn't that good. It's all about her editors.
That's not true.
Well, the fact that anybody could put together an entire book is just amazing to me. So kudos to both you guys. Like I said, the discipline that must take to be able to do, I would be great at starting it, but just finishing it would be my trouble. So
the second one is always harder, I think.
Yeah.
Actually, surprisingly
I think people
enough.
are surprised to hear that, but it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it. All right, you guys ready for my favorite time? My dad joke?
Let's do it. Let's see if Jeff maybe Jeff will get the answer. Sometimes we have people that actually get the answer. We'll see.
It's a corny one today. Really corny one today. Funny, but corny. So, why did the onion get flustered? Why did the onion get flustered?
Because he was peeling back his layers. I don't know.
I see Jeff's
That's a good one. There. I was trying to onions are in the ground, roots. I got nothing for you.
He saw the salad dressing. Salad dressing.
Wow.
Boom. Nobody was getting that one. Y'all were not getting that one.
So. Definitely not.
Oh, silliness.
Anyway, send us your favorite dad jokes so we can share them on the show and give you guys a shout out. You can submit them on our new website, themodusedge.com, or DM us on our social media at Join Modus. And with that, we'd like to tell you guys a little bit more about Modus.
Owning a gym doesn't have to feel like you're pushing the bus uphill alone. Join Modus, a powerhouse community of gym owners who share, support, and grow together. Inside the Modus Vault, you'll get ready-to-use templates, fresh resources, and exclusive industry discounts. Plus, your membership includes 2 seats at the Modus Business Expo in Nashville every year. 2 full days of growth, leadership, and networking, included at no extra cost. Ready to level up your gym game? Join Modus at joinmodus.com. That's JOINMOTUS.com. All right, Jeff, we're going to do some rapid fire questions. You ready?
Ooh, yeah, I'm ready.
All right,
Man, this first one is written for you and I, Jeff.
Okay.
All right. So, would you rather have great hair or great teeth?
Great hair.
You would rather have great hair. Meanwhile, for those of you that aren't watching this and just listening to it, Casey's got this gigantic cheesy grin on his face.
I don't have great hair.
I want my hair to come back. I can get braces. I can fix my teeth easy. It's this thing right there.
That's a good point you make, because I went straight to teeth because I obviously don't have any hair. Or not very much of it. So I went straight to teeth. But you do make a good point. It is far, I think, easier to fix your teeth. I tell the story about my son-in-law going to Turkey to get us to have the hair transplant. And he flew all the way over there. And they were like, yeah, yours is so bad, you're going to need 2 treatments. And he didn't do it. That was when he was like, you know what? I'm just going to be bald. And he spent the weekend in Turkey enjoying some good restaurants and didn't do it.
And they didn't tell him that before he went all that way.
So I think that it was probably, he was a young guy when he went. He was 23, 24 years old. So maybe he didn't read the fine print. But,
maybe he didn't know to ask or whatever. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's quite a process. Like, I think when you have that hair transplant, I think it's a year-long process, and a large portion of that time you don't look so great. So,
a lot of scabs.
That's
correct.
Funny.
And he's in sales. So,
that wasn't going to work.
Scabs and sales may not go too well. So,
yeah. Okay. Would you rather go camping or stay in a luxury hotel?
Luxury hotel.
I'm a luxury hotel as well, I think.
My husband says that I have this problem where I don't think I'm fancy, but I'm actually fancy. And this question just proved that point. He is going to be so happy, Stacey.
That's funny. Okay. Would you rather go skydiving or scuba diving?
Oh, skydiving. I have a fear of things in the water.
I don't like either, to be honest. I don't know if I'd like to do either. So I'm not really sure. I think I wouldn't mind scuba diving if I could be like in a tank.
Yeah.
That'd probably be submarining.
I've never been skydiving, but the things I have been, like, I guess the thing I mostly relate to is what is it, where they pull you behind the boat in the parachute?
Parasailing.
Yeah, the parasailing. That's kind of boring to me. I mean, it's a view, but like once I've, get me up and get me down, it's a little bit boring to me. So skydiving has never. It seems so exciting. I'm like, jumping out of a plane, you float down, you pull the parachute. It seems kind of boring to me. So
you don't get any adrenaline rush, or you wouldn't even while parasailing?
No, not really. Like I said, I get up there and I look around and I'm like, I think it's a struggle to, like, I don't sit still well. So, I want to be walking around and looking and moving.
So I'd be terrified the entire time.
Yeah.
So there's that. Okay. If you could time travel, where would you go?
Oof. Probably the late 1930s and warned the US about Hitler and the Holocaust and all that stuff.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that's an interesting answer. Do you just want to learn more about that time, or is there a specific reason why you chose that?
I guess I would say I have a passion for better understanding what brings a culture to, I'm struggling with the word. It's not malaise, but like
To just
the
do something
acceptance
like
of
that.
it happened and we
Yeah.
ignore it, and like it doesn't
Yeah.
impact me, so it's not a big deal. And so
have you ever been to any of the concentration camps?
Not yet. Mm-mm.
I went to Dachau years ago. I was 18 actually, and that is an experience in my life I will never ever forget.
Yeah.
And I remember, I mean, there is just such a, even 20 years ago, however many years after, you know, walking around and just seeing all of it, there was just such a feeling in there that I was like, you know, like it just still lingered, all
I'm
of the
sure.
evil. And, you know, it
Yeah.
was just, it was really something. So I too am, I enjoy learning a lot. I don't want to say enjoy is probably not the right word, but I'm intrigued by learning about all of that. And the same thing as you said too, like, you know, I like learning about the people who were willing to kind of stand up and say, like, I'm not going to do, like, I'm not okay with this, but then also how people were willing to just kind of go along with it, or so many people were willing to just pretend like it wasn't even happening. I mean, it was, you know, there was all different things going on.
Yeah.
I know that you are a reader as well. So The Light in Hidden Places is a really good book. If you haven't read that one,
I have not. I'm
about that time.
down.
It's really
right
good.
now.
Anyway, off topic. These questions are not fast, like we say they're going to be. All right, last question. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Probably Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Why? I just want to know how he was able to do what he did, remain for the most part very stuck or strict in how he presented things. I'm very impressed, and I think it's an important thing to be able to do and to understand how to stay regulated, but stay also on the path of your morals and your values. Yeah.
Second person to answer
so
that.
Much wisdom.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Orson said that was his choice as well. So very cool. The only repeat that we've had so far.
Yeah. Casey, you want to do the question? We got a question from our listener.
Got a question from a listener today. Actually, we have two questions today. So first one, hi, this is Lauren from Indiana. In high pressure sports, how important is it for athletes to have interests, hobbies, or identities outside of their sport? And have you seen that make a difference in their performance or confidence?
Yeah, 1,000%. I would say, this is my opinion, don't have the research to back this up yet. It may be out there. I think one of the biggest hurdles in cheerleaders' lives is the over-identification with their sport. Because most of our athletes, being an 11, 12-month season, they immerse themselves in the sport. They grow, they become great. They have all of these things to look up to, and it becomes their identity. And that is where performance anxiety, mental blocks, fixed mindset, those adverse things that we're trying to run away from, most of them occur because we're over-identifying with our skills, the level we make. And so I definitely do think it would be essential to remember that you are more than just a cheerleader. Look at all these other things. So when you have interests and hobbies outside of the sport, it's easier to have a clear mind.
Man, reminds me of a conversation I had, another conversation I had a couple of days ago. And it was actually kind of sad to me, but An athlete, they didn't make the team that they expected to make or wanted to make. Still made a great team, but didn't make that one. And the parent was really like, she's just devastated, which I understand. This is an emotional time. We talked about that. But, the thing that the parent kept saying, one of the reasons they were most devastated, their followers on social media didn't understand. And kept going on. They've got 11,000 followers and they just don't understand why she didn't make this team and this and that and the other. And I was just like, man, I understand that could be a really tough spot for this kid, but that's also a choice. We've allowed this kid to put themselves in that spot and to where that identity is just a team,
Yeah.
one team. That was their identity. And when that doesn't happen, then, thousands of people that don't even know this person or the situation.
That's right.
Are then replying to them.
Chiming
and
in.
then, yeah. And I'm sure that is tough on the athlete, but also unnecessary,
Goodness. And that's a whole nother conversation, I feel like, and what that does to everybody and kids. And I mean, it's just.
Well, and that's the thing. Unless you're monetizing that for a good reason, and many of the people that are monetizing that, they don't care what the followers say. They care about the paycheck. So, that's not this though, unfortunately. So,
I think what's hard, if we go back to understanding the brain development of adolescence, if we're thinking adolescence being 10 to 25, is that there's only two things that age group wants: status and respect. And so having 11,000 or 1,100 followers, I have status and I have the respect. So anytime somebody violates that, it feels like you are personally attacking them. Me not making the team that I want is a personal attack. So that's where we get those really big over emotions in situations.
Yeah, it makes sense. And what may be, I don't want to say a normal, but a somewhat normal, little bit of a setback. You have these feelings. I would, if you don't hit your dream team, I would expect the feelings. If you didn't have them, then you didn't care enough. But like you said, when that is multiplied by 11,000 people chiming in to give their opinion, man, then that's when it really piles on to these kids.
It does.
All right, next question. Hi, this is Chris from Georgia. Have you noticed a difference in how today's athletes handle setbacks or criticism compared to athletes years ago? And what do you think is contributing to that change?
Ooh, good one. In many of my presentations, when I do staff trainings, even sometimes when I do my parent playbook for parents of gyms, I talk about, if you can, list what you believe is an adjective for this generation in one word. And we could probably imagine what most coaches, even parents, sometimes put up there: spoiled, soft, et cetera, et cetera. And so what I try to explain is kind of where I think Chris is getting to. This isn't a kid problem. This is us, parents. It's a culture identity problem. Our culture is now easier than it was when all three of us were growing up. And that is because us as parents, are different. Because our culture is, I can right now get on my phone and order my groceries to get delivered to my home. I could get on Amazon and sometimes even get that delivery by the end of the day. I don't even need to leave my home and do anything. Our society, for better or worse, is a lot easier. We have things at the touch of a fingertip. And so what that's going to create are athletes who have a harder time with setback, frustration, disappointment, because we are not creating things outside of this easier, softer life to challenge their athlete or to challenge the child. So yeah, is it? Absolutely. But whose fault is it? It's ours.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It is our fault, but it's also due to a lot of things that we have done well. And I've got one of my best friends. We talk about this all the time.
Good point.
because he relates much to what you were talking about, all these things to farming. He was like, it wasn't long ago where it took almost, one person might could provide food for a family for 4 or 5, but it took that one person to provide food for 4 or 5. Well, now one person can provide food for hundreds of thousands of people due to the technological advances in farming, and he's like, you don't have to back up that long ago, a couple hundred years ago, and kids and families and everybody were involved in feeding themselves. And if you didn't feed yourself, you perished, so it was kind of, and now fast forward just a short amount of time, no one has to work to feed themselves. And I do understand there's still poverty, there's things like that, but for the most part in our country, very few people are working to feed themselves. Like you said, that we go in any grocery store, it's full. Think about all the food we throw away that we just waste, that's just goes bad in our refrigerator, and we don't even care because we order up some more. But anyway, many of these things are advancements, what we would consider are better in our society, yet they still have such a deep impact on us and our children, because that's the thing. When you have time on your hands, that's when you can really wallow in these situations. And once again, I don't pretend to know what it was like 200 years ago, but you probably didn't get to wallow in that too long because you had to get up and go work on the farm the next day to feed your family.
Yeah. I really appreciate that frame switch. It's easier now because of these advancements. There's so much positive to the technology that we have today. However, there's also always going to be a drawback. You might have 11,000 followers that have access to you 24/7. If you as a child don't have the psychological immune system and the tools to deal with that, to realize like these are faux people. These are like avatars. These are not people that you truly interact with. So even though they have an opinion on you, it has zero to do with your actual life and who you actually are.
Yep. Well, I think that's just, another piece of that is the time that you pour into that and that kids have to pour into it. Because the reality is, due to many advances in our society, all of us have so much more time. The reality, like my friend says, just a few hundred years ago, your time was spent farming, hunting, gathering, whatever you had to do to feed or building your house, whatever you had to do to serve. Your time was spent to survive, and the reality is now, myself included, sometimes I'm shocked on Sunday morning when that screen time pops up on my phone and I'm like, the amount of time that I have to burn looking at a phone, looking at TikTok, looking at whatever is just crazy, and not all societies have that.
I think it's easier said than done, and obviously probably a little easier for me as an adult, but kind of, Jeff, to your point, what you were talking about with social media, I think that those hateful comments say more about the person making the comment than they do about you. And so, for kids or parents even trying to help their kids, like help them understand that those comments say more about the commenter than they do about you as a person, and it's ironic that I do not have a gajillion social media followers, but I am an author and I have a ton of reviews. And while, my books have good reviews, they have some not so good reviews. And some of the reviews there's a few that are negative and constructive actually. And there are many that are just hateful. And I'm like, what was so bad in your day that you needed to come on here and make this hateful comment? And then last night, to Casey's point, my husband and I were I shouldn't say my husband and I was randomly scrolling TikTok and my husband was just a party to it, laying next to me in the bed while we're like getting ready to go to sleep. And we were cracking up because they had all these celebrities reading the like mean tweets. Have y'all ever seen that?
Yeah.
And it's funny because the way that they're like listening to them, the celebrity themselves, read the tweet out loud about themselves, and then they react to it. Their reactions to it are hysterical a lot of the times because they have, a funny quip back, or they give the middle finger, or, whatever the case may be. But I said that to my husband. I'm like, what makes a person like, you don't even know this person, like, I don't know, pick a celebrity, Angelina Jolie. I don't know why that's the first name that popped in my head, but she wasn't even one of the people. But, you hate her so much that you're going to go on to Twitter, X, whatever, and give this like horrible, hateful, mean comment. Like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you as a person?
There's that. And then there's the opposite too, the positive, non-constructive comment. Because I think that, referring back to that athlete, people weren't dogging on her because that it was more of it. Look, the coaches are wrong. That like they don't know, and you see that all over. You see that all over the place. Of like, after Worlds and the team got a close second place. It's not quick. Hey, let's see where the judges were right in this. It was you were robbed. It was this. It's politics. It's they paid the judges. All of this stuff just feeding into these people of like I think we are all brain washable. I don't know if that's a term, but you hear something over and over and over and over.
Well, and it feels good, right? Because you want validation, you want justification for your wrong. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Community win. You doing that, Stace?
Sure, I will do it. My screen was acting a little funny on me. So we always share a community win, Jeff. So today's community win is from a MotUS Edge gym owner. She says, after listening to episode 67 with Alex, one thing that really stuck with me was the idea that growth happens when you build systems, communicate clearly, and aren't afraid to ask for help. As a gym owner, I was carrying everything in my head, scheduling, parent communication, staffing, team needs, all of it. And honestly, I was exhausted. That episode helped change me to stop thinking I had to improve myself by doing it all alone. So we started creating better systems, having more intentional staff conversations, and leaning on the people around us instead of trying to be superheroes. The episode reminded me that strong leaders don't carry everything alone. They build strong people around them. Pretty cool.
Great.
Very good.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, for hopping on today. We were so excited to have you on.
It was great.
We need to have you back because I feel like there's like a million more things that we could talk about. We didn't
get to talk about the science of happiness earlier. You were like, if there's one thing you want, I'm like, the science of happiness. It's so good.
That would be amazing. So that's a little teaser. Yeah. I'm going to send you the link. You're going to book again and we're going to talk about the science of happiness. So stay tuned for that. I love it.
And hey, Jeff, real quick, let everybody know how, like, if you have an issue in your gym or literally, I have leaned on Jeff for many things. I mentioned that earlier, but he's not just coming in and setting up, helping you set up. Like he can help in any little individual things, help with parent issues. He even did a parent contract with us, really, when we were dealing with a single parent, so he kind of does it all. So Jeff, tell everybody how they can reach out to you.
You can check out my website, mindbodycheer.com. You can reach out to me by email, mindbodycheer@gmail.com. And as always, please follow me on Instagram, mindbodycheer. You can get a hold of me there as well.
Awesome. Thanks. And hey, guys, like I said, don't hesitate. Reach out. He can help with many, many things.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Jeff, for being on. We're so glad that you're here. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at the MotUS Edge. Check out our video shorts, like and comment. We love to hear from you. Give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Join MotUS, and check us out on LinkedIn and TikTok at the MotUS Edge. Follow our show wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you like what we're doing and you want to hear more, leave us a comment and tell all of your friends. And hey, if you're a gym owner, join the movement today and sign up for MotUS. Thank you guys so much for listening. And we're excited for you to have the MotUS Edge.
Thank you for listening to the MotUS Edge. We hope you had a blast. Join us next week for more on business, leadership, and motivation. Subscribe and follow the show where you get your podcasts. Subscribe to our newsletter at joinmodus.com. The MotUS Edge podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.